Yeah, I love the cases where the patient's so sick they can't talk. That is what we do in trauma. My friend, not a gunner 96. Surgery is for you. You should be going into trauma surgery or acute care surgery. That is where you belong. Hi, my name is Dr. Rich Hilsden, and you're watching my channel, Knife Skill. I'm a surgeon, and I like to just talk about what's going on in medicine, current affairs, maybe different things that might interest my audience, who are oftentimes residents and medical students. One of the places where I get inspiration, though, is the Reddit subreddit r residency. So I thought I'd dive in today and read some of the recent comments to get a sense of really what's going on in the residents' minds. Remember, residency started for many people in July. Here we are, mid to end August. Certainly by the time this is posted, it'll be around that time. And so you'll get a sense of how residents are doing, what's going on in their lives as they deal with that transition, their first job as a doctor, and really the position they find themselves in the hospital. So let's start with this one right here. This one's called Your Unpopular / Crazy Opinions Regarding Medicine. Do you have any opinions that make most of your co-residents look at you like you have 4 eyes? Here's my example of that. I enjoy working 24-hour shifts. Maybe it's because I have insomnia and accidentally pull all-nighters all the time anyway. Or maybe it's just the fact that being on call in the hospital feels like, well, a crappy hotel. But something about witnessing a whole day, seeing people come and go, in and out, is so satisfying. That being said, as much as I enjoy them, I don't think they should still be a thing, or at least as widespread as they currently are. It's simply not safe for patients. During the last few hours, I'm not as vigilant and miss details easier. But yeah, I still love them. Your turn. What are your crazy / unpopular opinions? So this issue of 24-hour shifts, really depending on what program you're in, they can even be a little longer. Most programs now cap it at 24 hours. You have to hand off the pager, which I think is actually really healthy. What used to happen with the longer shifts is that there'd be a bit more protection of the resident when they're on call at night. Now, when you're working 24 hours, the expectation is that you're really working that entire time. They're essentially up 24 hours. So it's a trade-off. The hours have been shortened, but the expectations of productivity during those hours have increased. There's less downtime, rest, time for breaks. There's always a trade-off. If you ask for fewer hours, you have to either extend your training, or you've got to compress more into those hours, and they can be more stressful hours. Definitely a program that has longer call shifts, for example, will have an expectation of maybe sleeping on call. So I can see why there's a bit of stress or distress when it comes to these 24-hour shifts. I don't think medicine is a calling, or that we should give our entire selves to it. All my co-residents look at me like crazy. So I actually tend to side on medicine being a calling. There are some wonderful rewards for being a doctor, but when we say medicine is a calling, is what we're saying is that the intrinsic rewards of doing the job are why you do it, rather than some financial gain or some other external reward. And I think that's really important. The vast majority of doctors are working extremely hard, and if they applied that type of work to, say, finance or some other private business, they would have greater financial success. So you have to find that internal reason for doing it. And that's where we talk about this being a calling. It's that internal reason. Let's see another comment here. The attending says, it's a job. And if someone tries to make you drink the Kool-Aid, it's just them trying to justify why they're tolerating abuse, work conditions, and low pay. That goes a little bit with what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is that the conditions of medicine are difficult. And that's precisely the point. The comments about it being a calling are people rationalizing how difficult medicine truly is, and essentially saying, don't expect the external rewards to be worth it, because it's not. This is PGY2, not a gunner 96. I really enjoy suturing. Even just a teeny tiny baby lac feels so satisfying to bring together. I just wish it wasn't such a time sink. I also much prefer an acutely ill dying patient who can't give a history over someone who is stable and obviously not ill. I think everybody feels that way. If you're in acute care, and I'm an acute care surgeon, trauma surgeon, yeah, I love the cases where the patient's so sick they can't talk. That is what we do in trauma. So this gets back to what I talk about when you really want to pick that specialty that suits you. If you're someone who likes sewing, like this person said, and you're someone who likes that case where the patient is acutely ill, my friend, not a gunner 96. surgery is for you. You should be going into trauma surgery or acute care surgery. That is where you belong. Let's look at another post. Suggestions on which Rolex to buy for the hospital with my 10K loan forgiveness money. And what are the comments here? I got severed to sell you. I'll in-house finance you. I think this is a joke referring to the loan forgiveness that is being proposed. Again, I'm a Canadian surgeon, doesn't apply to us, but I've noticed a few little comments on the Reddit this month about the loan forgiveness, and I think a lot of people are offering opinions, appreciating it one way or the other. Had a pretty bad 24-hour call, but let's concentrate on the silver lining. So I had a depressing 24-hour shift the other day. When that happens, I tend to keep thinking over and over again about my mistakes and that asshole that tried to drown me instead of helping me swim. Decided to do something different instead. I'm grateful for the peaceful attending who take their time to explain your mistakes and how to do better. I'm grateful for the people who know how to teach, especially those that take care not to arrange for me to fail. I'm grateful for the nurses and fellow intern that took the time to check in with me and see if I was okay. I'm grateful for the unintended lesson on how not to teach someone in the ER. It's a good, bad role model. I'm quite proud of how I finally got my bearing back after getting crushed. I'm quite proud to realize after the shift that I was right. Elevated BNP are not only because of acute CHF, so Lasix might not have been indicated, especially since the patient was more dehydrated than congested. She was having pneumonia. So it sounds like there was some disagreement over a test result, this BNP result. Again, this is a common thing. I can remember some cases when I was a resident. I had retrained in general surgery, had experience as a family doctor prior to doing general surgery, and actually had worked in emergency departments for many years. And when I was rotating through the emergency department, there were some attendings who strongly disagreed with what I was doing. But the thing was, I was a fully trained doctor with experience. And I knew from that experience really what the ranges of right and wrong were and what the options were for many of these situations. And some attending staff are so fixated on the way they do it. There's like their way or the highway, but in reality, medicine has many different ways to do things. Surgery is a great example of this. There are some fundamental principles that are core to surgery, but I've seen the same operation done so many different times, different sutures, different approaches, different steps in different orders. There's so many different ways that people do things. And so I've really lost through my experience this idea that there's only one way to do things. There are better and worse ways for sure, but there are many different ways to be successful and to take care of the patient well. And that's why guidelines exist. They tell you what the options are so you know which sort of lane to be in. And I'm grateful for those resources. You were 24 hours trying your best. It happens. And you'll learn for the next time. This will be true throughout my career. Recently, I had a person transferred to us after a lithium overdose that coded and was S/P ROSC. So ROSC stands for return of spontaneous circulation. Basically, the heart started beating and came back. We don't think they coded because of the overdose, but because the transferring attending decided to give charcoal, which doesn't really work in lithium, they became altered, which can happen with lithium, and vomited/aspirated. It resulted in severe respiratory failure. Charcoal in the lungs is bad and very likely cause ARDS, so acute respiratory distress syndrome. As attendings, we'll make mistakes too. Live, learn, and don't be an asshole. So another good comment, like second guess things that don't feel right. You do need to respect your attendings, go with them, really go with their plan because they're the boss, they're the ones responsible. But it is good to second guess for your own learning. And very often I learn from my residents. They'll second guess me and I'm humble enough to take that suggestion. And if you're ever working with me, if someone's watching this and you have a question, don't be afraid to ask. I hope that I'm approachable enough that I'll respond to that. I may not agree because I am the attending and it's my responsibility ultimately with the patient, but I appreciate those other ideas. Quitting as an intern. Hello friends. New intern here. Day in and day out, I'm so exhausted, mentally more than physically, and it's draining me emotionally, mentally, and in every aspect to the point I don't feel happy with this profession and the sheer burden that comes with it. I'm considering quitting altogether. Every single day, I end up crying. I just can't take this anymore. I had a pretty decent job before residency, and I'm honestly happy doing that job. I was wondering if you could get help with getting a therapist, alternate career options to continue practicing in the USA. Thank you, going through a hard time. So it's very common at the beginning of residency to struggle. Like I said, this first year is a transition from medical student to resident doctor, and that's going to be a challenge for a lot of people. Residency is very demanding, and it's your first real job as a doctor. The negative feedback you get, the stressful work hours, all those things drain on you. I'm not surprised this person is having trouble. I posted a video about don't quit. And really my thesis there in that video is try to get to the next step before you make your decision to quit. Get through where you're at, because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it seems a lot worse than when you get through it. And so my encouragement is to stick with it the best you can. For some people, that's not possible. And I'm not suggesting that sticking through it is great for everyone, but try your best to accomplish your next step. Let's see some comments here. Don't do it. Take it from someone who quit and came back. It'll get better halfway through the year. And again, you're in a transition. Halfway through the year, you're going to learn more. You're going to be more prepared for the job. You're starting at the beginning of residency and you're not fully trained, and you're going to get better and better. It gets easier as you go along to perform your duties because you are getting better. It's harder as the first year because it is harder. You're not as skilled, and you'll become more skilled as time goes on. So stick with it. Here's PGI4 says, sorry you're feeling this way. First year is rough. If you'd like to continue practicing in the US in a clinical capacity, you're going to have at least that first year. I did first year twice. I trained as a family doctor, then retrained as a surgeon. I had to repeat my intern year or first year. And that was brutal. That is one of the most demanding years. It's a pressure cooker, putting you through the stress and pressure to become a doctor. Super difficult, but absolutely worth it. So I strongly encourage you to get through that first year if you can. Med Twitter etiquette. Seeing and interacting with resident applicants on Twitter has been an interesting and new experience over the last few years. As with anything new, what works and what doesn't work is a moving target. What do you think of applicants who use their bio and say aspiring XYZ specialist? Is it presumptive? Do you think social media presence and following has become the fourth estate, if you will, a new way for applicants to make themselves attractive? Has it helped or hurt in getting good matches? So my initial response to this is that having a strong social media presence as a medical student is more likely to be harmful than helpful. And the main reason is that social media is media. It's going to be received positively or negatively by different people. And you don't know how your program is going to perceive the work that you're doing. So I strongly encourage you to be careful when you're using social media. Even if you've got a great big profile and they're wonderful medical students who've got great content on YouTube, I would downplay that in my application process. They may even just assume you're not focused on medicine. That might be the assumption when it's not true. And they might say, is this person going to really give to the program if they're doing a lot on social media? And here's another thing. Maybe they'll be concerned that their program might be cast in a less than positive light on social media. And if you have a big following, that would put their program at risk. So there are lots of reasons to be a little concerned, especially as a medical student, of having a big social media presence. Now, I do think as you get a bit more experience and move a little further, the risk decrease, and you're really directing your own career at that point. And so you can use social media either as a positive thing to leverage that, or maybe it can be something that you just do for fun. The best med Twitter etiquette is to delete your account. I don't agree with that necessarily, but I would say be careful with it. Personally, med Twitter / influencers on Instagram and TikTok are all red flags, cringeworthy. I have a TikTok account. I love it. I make jokes on that. Maybe people think that it's cringe, but some people like it. But that gets the whole point of some people are going to receive it as great and some people are going to receive it as terrible. And so you need to kind of know what you're dealing with. And for a medical student, I don't know if you really want to risk it being received badly, possibly. All those people are gross. Med Twitter is so annoying. Like, stop making medicine your identity. Well, again, I definitely agree with that. But that being said, we do love to communicate our field, and my passion for my field comes out in my social media as well. So anyway, some interesting comments here. Again, I would think be careful what you're using social media for if you're a medical student. You're applying for a job in medicine. Medicine tends to be conservative, and there are definite risks of doing it. So that's my advice for anyone watching this channel. I really enjoy reading the R Residency subreddit. If there are any other subreddits that you follow that you think are interesting for the culture of medicine, current affairs of medicine, let me know. Maybe I'll take a look and make a video about that as well. If you stuck with me to the end, once again, I want to say thank you. My name is Dr. Rich Hillsden, and I appreciate you being here. Have a great day.